Malaysian!
To my fellow Malaysians in Singapore, today is the day whereby the Vaccinated travel lane is available for Singapore and Malaysia. That means we can have quarantine-free traveling back home. Now, hold your excitement. There's still quite a few things that you need to take note of. So I've studied about the Vaccinated travel lane, and in this video, I will be sharing on the eligible criteria, the procedures, as well as some of the needed documents for you to travel to and fro between Singapore and Malaysia via the VTL. First thing first, you need to be fully vaccinated by the WHO emergency use vaccine at least 14 days prior to your arrival to either Singapore or Malaysia. And here's a list of all the vaccines that is accepted by Singapore and Malaysia. Now basically, if you are vaccinated in either of this country, it should be recognized, so don't worry about it. If you're not, just need to make sure that the vaccine that you took is in this list. Secondly, you need to have an accepted proof of vaccination. Now thankfully, both Singapore and Malaysia actually accept the vaccination certificate that was issued by, each other. Yeah, so if you're vaccinated in Singapore, this is the website that you can log into and request for a vaccination certificate. Now, if you're vaccinated in Malaysia, simply just download it from the MySejahtera app. The MySejahtera app is an app that was created by the Malaysian government to help with COVID contact tracing and also sharing information with the public regarding COVID, basically. Now, the equivalent in Singapore is called the Trace Together app. It is very important for you to have both these apps in your phone if you're traveling to and fro Singapore and Malaysia. Next, you need to fulfill the travel and transit history. Now basically, if you want to travel into Singapore by air, you can only be in Singapore, any VTL countries, or Category 1 countries for the past 14 days, and that includes transit. However, if you're traveling into Singapore by land, you can only be in Singapore or Malaysia for the past 14 days. If you want to travel into Malaysia, be it by land or by air, you can only be in Singapore or Malaysia for the past 14 days. Now you might be wondering, what does it mean by Singapore or Malaysia for the past 14 days? So I'll give you an example to better illustrate this. Say for example, I want to go back into Malaysia, but I don't plan to stay there for 2 weeks. I can still come back to Singapore even if my trip is less than 14 days, because my travel history has indicated that I am in Singapore and Malaysia for the past 14 days. To put it simply, you don't have to stay in Malaysia for 14 days just to go back into Singapore. Next, designated transportation. It doesn't matter if you're traveling in by flight or by land, there's only a few designated airplanes and buses that you can take to travel. So if you're traveling by flight, make sure that you're only traveling in VTL flights only, and it's only operated by a few designated airlines. So check properly. Because if you took a non-VTL flight in, you can still clear the immigration, it's just that you probably need to serve your quarantine. However, if you're traveling in by land, these are the two bus operators that you can book your tickets from. Do note that you can only book your tickets online, and it's a first come first served basis, I suppose, because there's a fixed quota of how many people can cross the border every single day, at least for now. So yeah, good luck guys in buying the tickets. Next, pre-departure COVID swab test. Yeah, it's still needed unfortunately. But hey, at least there's no more quarantine. So it doesn't matter if you are taking a bus or taking a plane, going into Singapore, going to Malaysia, you will still need to have a pre-departure COVID swab test as done 48 hours prior to your departure time. To travel into Singapore, they accept both PCR tests and ART tests, but it's done by a medical professional from a licensed medical facility that can give you a certificate saying that you're tested negative. If you're traveling into Malaysia by flight, do know that they only accept PCR tests, but if you're traveling into Malaysia by land, they actually accept ART tests as well. But I repeat, do not do your ART test yourself and expect them to accept that as your pre-departure COVID swab test. You have to go to a clinic or any medical facility and get it done properly by a medical professional. Documents you need for traveling. Now, depending on your residential status and also your mode of travel, there might be some differences into what kind of documents you will need to travel. So let's go through it one by one. There is 2 documents that you will need regardless of nationality and your mode of travel. The first one is the vaccination certificate, and the second one is a negative pre-departure COVID swab test 48 hours prior to your departure date. Now let's go into the differences in the required documents. So if you're traveling into Singapore by flight or by land, you will need to submit the SGAC 3 days prior to your departure date. Also, if you're not a Singapore citizen or permanent resident, you will also need to apply for a vaccination travel pass. In short, we call it VTP, and this is the link for application. Now, if you are short-term visitors, for example, like business visitors or official travelers, do note that traveling in by land is not an option, so you will need to come in by flight. And you will also need a travel insurance that covers up to 30,000 Singapore dollars for COVID-related medical bills. And of course, if you need a visa, just apply for a visa. If you are traveling into Malaysia by flight, there isn't any special things that you need to apply for, but it is mandatory for short-term visitors to have a return flight ticket and a travel insurance that covers COVID-19 related medical bills up to 100,000 ringgit Malaysia. And of course, if you need a visa, get a visa. If you wish to travel into Malaysia by land, you need to register in this particular website. I'm not sure what is it for, but I'm guessing maybe it's because of the quota that they have for travelers each day. And as I mentioned before, VTL Land travel between Singapore and Malaysia are currently only open for Singapore or Malaysian citizens and permanent residents, as well as their long-term pass holder. If you don't belong to any of this category, you can only travel by flight. Lastly, please remember to pre-book your on-arrival PCR test, and of course pay for it, before you travel. So the process will be a lot easier whether or not is it in Changi Airport, the KLIA, or the Larkin Bus Terminal. Unless you're coming into Singapore by land, the rest of the travel mode requires you to have an on-arrival PCR test, and until the test is negative, you need to isolate yourself. But not to worry, the test result usually comes out within 24 hours. Alright guys, those are the things that I know about the VTL travel between Malaysia and Singapore. I just hope that I didn't miss out anything, but if I did, do me a favor and leave some comments so that, we don't miss out stuff. Anyways, I guess it's a really good thing that now we have lesser restrictions in traveling back home and see our loved ones. I suppose in the near future, there are going to be changes, hopefully better and more convenient changes. So I guess till then, we will just stay tuned and see how it goes. If you're one of those people who are traveling back home, have a safe trip and enjoy your time with your family. Don't forget to leave some comments and share your experience too. And yeah, I guess that's all for today. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!